During this webinar, we will be talking about the how to use creative and artistic activities into online settings. Okay, let's start sharing my screen. Do you see the screen now? Okay, during the webinar, we will talk a little bit about the creativity as a process and its specifics during the when we are in the online settings. Also, we'll talk a little bit about the types of artistic activities and how to adjust them into the online settings. And the third part will be dedicated to present the presentation of the 3 activities which we developed under our T4T project. And there is one warm-up activity, one energizing activity, and one wrap-up activity, which uses and the different creative techniques and approaches during their implementation. First of all, let me remind you what the T4T project is about. If there are any problems with the sound, just give me a sign and we will see. I hope that you hear me as well. So what the T4T project is about? During this project, we are focusing on supporting adult educators and training professionals how to effectively shift from face-to-face setting to online environment, and to provide the same learners interaction and the same human-like experience for learners as in the physical environment, because there are differences and specifics, of course. And as this webinar is dedicated to creativity, let's start with seeing what creativity is about. When we say creativity, the first thing which usually comes to our minds is it's about imagination. Yes, according to some definitions of creativity, it is the use of imagination in an original or some original ideas to create something new and something different. And usually creativity is associated with artists, with painters, with writers, with poets, with actors, or musicians, or some other people who deal with the arts in their work, and they create artworks on a daily basis. However, creativity is important in every aspect of our lives, and everybody is somehow creative in their works, and should think how to incorporate different types of creative and non-usual approaches into its daily activities. So what are the basic principles of the creative process? The first one is that it's a cyclical process, it's a non-linear process. And also it's an ongoing process, and it doesn't have a final start and the final end stage, which is usually a reflection. But when we talk about creativity, it's actually a process that's continuous by thinking and reflecting about what we have learned and in the previous stage, and how actually to apply the gained knowledge and the gained skills into the next stage. So during the when we are talking about the creative process, it's a constant process of creating, rethinking, and refining the outcomes of what we are doing. And of course, the creative process is always linked with experimentation and with challenge and self-challenges. Because during when we are we think about the creativity, we always experiment in the way we approach the tasks and the way we actually do the things. And that's why we always self-challenge ourselves. But and the other principle of creativity is that it always needs safe and supporting environment in which people actually employ their imagination, challenge the way how they do the things, struggle a bit, and reimagine the ways how they complete the task. What are about the creativity in online settings? As we already said that during the when we are thinking about and working in an online setting, there are differences, and I would like to hear your opinion in the chat about what are the main challenges you faced when trying to do something in an online environment. So can we can you write something in the chat? What are the main principles and the main challenges? Yeah, distance. Only distance. Distance 1, distance 2. Okay, obviously the distance is the biggest challenge. Yes, when we work in the online environment, we are always alone in the front of our devices, and that really puts another a big challenge to us when, especially when we moderate such type of activities. Yeah, different instruments is another challenge. Yes, we have to employ different instruments. Also, we already you already said I have to shift in between different screens, and so this really puts a challenge. Yes. Yeah, motivate them to stay focused. Yes, it's always a challenge for participants to keep their focus. Yes, as Matt has written, other distracting things happening around us in the room. Yes, when we deal in the online setting, we never know what are the surrounding environments for the participants in the webinar. Some of them are surrounded by colleagues, and they can do different, many of the things, the activities. Others are on the streets. Some are at home, and they're surrounded by pets or by their children. So it might be very challenging for them to join and to follow. And of course, this also distracts the learning environment. Yes, another challenge is that when we are in online environment, there are no this social interaction and those non-formal relationships which are usually usual when we are in a group setting. And all those things, they somehow hinder the creative process, which, as we already said, needs really in safe and supporting environment. But at the same time, it's a good way because another challenge, it wasn't mentioned, but when I talk about different participants in different online meetings and events, they always say that screen fatigue is a big challenge for them. And a very useful and very really inspiring way to combat with this screen fatigue is to somehow employ and use some artistic challenge. Oops, again, I fight with different instruments. So what are the types of artistic activities, and how can we adjust them to online settings? Usually, when we talk about arts and artistic activities, somehow people, they feel afraid of jumping into such type of activities because they don't feel confident in their artistic skills, and they have unconscious fears of dealing with arts, being this music or dance or drawing or theater, because they think that they are not good enough to exhibit. But when we include artistic activities into our online sessions and online meetings, actually the purpose is not to exhibit, but to have a little bit fun and to try something new and something different, and to go out of the routine, and even to go out of the comfort zone of the participants, and to really challenge them to find a new approach. The good thing that arts has, irrespectively of its type, is that there is no good and bad things in the when we approach an artistic activity, and everything is a matter of interpretation, and we are free to interpret whatever we see and we feel into an artistic activity. Oops, something happened with my screen, I think. Yeah. But when we are thinking about an artistic activity in online settings, we usually call this artistic and or creative boosts. And this is something which rely on so-called collaborative art. That means that we will bring people together and ask them to do something in common. The final product in the collaborative art is something which employs different artistic means and tools, but is a product of mutual communication and mutual collaboration into an online environment. So here the purpose is not a competition, the purpose is collaboration. And this is in the core of the so-called creative online boosts. Those types of exercises are quick one-off exercises, which somehow are based and use some artistic activities that engage people in fun experiences as part of the serious session content or in between the lessons. And those creative boosts, they are based on the principles of experimentation, exploration, self-challenge, And also they allow creative use on some unconventional art media, because during them we might use our some drawing sketches making, or some singing, or some dancing, or some other body movement, or improvisations. Have you ever participated, or how often have you participated in an online artistic activities? Would you like to make a kind of a pool? Let's see who's here. And here are 3 simple questions. Do you see them on your screens?
Yes.
Okay. Who likes to answer them? Or you never experienced such an experience? Yeah. Oh, I see that some people have experienced dancing online. Oh, great. Okay, let's wait for 1 or 2 seconds more. Okay, let's see the results. So I see that people, the majority of the respondents have participated less than 3 times, so good. And I see that some have never had such experience. Oh, the majority has never organized such a thing, such an artistic activity. And drawing and painting or other thing, other type of activity are the most common one. Great. Yes. Yes, it's different when we organize such an artistic activity in online setting, and there are some specifics when we are an organizer of such an activity. Let's see what we should keep in mind, what is better to keep in mind when we organize such an artistic boost in online settings. First of all, it's important to allow enough time to participants to shift their moods from the serious content to the creative exercise, because when we are in a hall with all the participants, somehow we are engaged from the energy of the other participants, and it's easier for them to shift their moods. But when the participants are in an online setting, they are alone in front of their computers, and actually they somehow are more slow in this process. So we should give enough time to our listeners, to our students, to shift their moods and to take their creative hats and to move to the artistic experience. The second thing to consider is that when we are in class or when we are in a meeting hall, as organizers, we know what kind of materials and we provide the materials which are necessary for participants for doing actually the creative exercise. And so they can just, they just receive the material, they can take it and just do the exercise. But when we organize such a creative boost, we never know what kind of materials the listeners and the learners have around them at their homes or at other venues they attend the class, and they need first to find those materials, then to think about how to use them and what they could do with this, and after that to create the final artistic output from the activity. Or it's the same with the online collaborative tools. It also might take longer for the participants to adjust to those when they are alone in front of their devices, because they don't have this opportunity to look at their peer and to see how he or she uses the online tool. And even though during the pandemic, lots of online collaborative tools, they became even more user-friendly and easier to apply, even though some of the participants might have problems with adjusting to some specific feature of the online collaborative tool, or might feel uncertain how to use it. Another thing that we need to consider is that we should give freedom to online participants to choose the materials they will use and to approach the creative task as they want. Because when we are organizing such an artistic activity, as we already said, we never know what the participants and what the learners have at hand at their homes. So it's better, for example, not to say, take a red pen and draw this picture, but say take a colorful pen, because they might not have a red pen around them at that moment, but a green one. So it's better just to take to tell the participants what kind of tool to use and what kind of material to use and how many times to use, but to give them a freedom how to do that, and what exactly type of material to use. And when we are organizing an outcome from a kind of a painting or a drawing exercise, it's always important to highlight to participants that it's not a drawing lesson. And we are not here to learn and how to technically draw something, but it's important. So the process is important in this drawing exercise, and sometimes we should not be surprised nor afraid that the final outcome of the drawing exercise might be some kind of an amateurish sketch, or on a piece of paper, or just a few lines shared on an online whiteboard. And the most important, we should constantly highlight to the learners that the most important thing here is just to participate and really to express themselves, not to look at the final outcome of the of the exercise. And last but not least, it's important to make all those artistic activities fun, because we enjoy and we are creative when we really enjoy what we are doing. So when we are thinking about creativity and when we say artistic things or artistic exercise, we usually think about some drawing or some painting. In some cases, we are also thinking about sculpturing or printmaking. But actually, according to the online career expert Zipia, As part of the artistic skills are also music composition skills. Here they include singing, but also playing different instruments or even clapping, anything related to music. Also, dancing skills are also considered an artistic skills, acting skills, writing skills, filmmaking skills. So when you are thinking about what kind of creative boost to organize in your online classes, online sessions, think about how to explore and how you can incorporate all those skills, not only drawing and painting, but also music, also dancing, any body movement. And because this might give you different ideas on what kind of activities to use. Usually, artistic activities, they, of course, they use a kind of a painting or drawing, some vocal things or some sounds like singing or sometimes even clapping might be a good way as an energizer in an online environment. Some singing, some improv theater techniques, some even to recite the poem or some dancing more, it could be also a good example. Here I have listed some kind of artistic activities which you can use in your online classes or sessions. First, which you could try is, of course, the most common, to draw, sketch, or design some kind of a virtual visual metaphor to capture the essence of the presented information and to explore some alternative ideas about a specific topic which you are presenting. This is usually the easiest way and the first type of artistic activity which comes to our minds. The other type which you could try in your online classes could be to tell a story using an online storyboard. This is a very helpful way on how to summarize some complicated content, a way also to simplify complex theoretical information or to present it on an interesting and accessible way. Through online storyboards, you can visually highlight the key aspects of the content by using different illustrations or some pictures with some notes. And there are different software applications which make very easy on how to use those storyboards. And you can find them some examples of such applications into the guidelines and into the module because as part of the our project we also develop guidelines on how to shift from face-to-face to online environment, and there is a separate module dedicated particularly to that kind of creative and artistic activities, and there you can find helpful software applications which you can employ in your lessons. Another type of artistic activity is to ask your learners to write a poem or to sing a song together. This is might be an interesting activity not only in language lessons, but also sometimes in geographical lessons or in history lessons. For example, I during my own experience with some people with dementia, which we work with, we combine art sessions and presenting arts from different countries, different paintings from different countries, and we combine them with some music activities. And when we present the Bulgarian painters and Bulgarian Bulgarian artists, we also accompany our lessons with traditional Bulgarian music, and sometimes, because those lessons are online, our participants, they just started to sing the folk song which we propose them, and this really creates completely different atmosphere into the online session. So this is really very applicable way on how to put a fresh air into an online session. Another activity which you can try is to create a common digital soundboard. You may ask your participants to just to go out and to record the sounds of the noise around them, and after that create a kind of a sensory journal of what is the digital soundboard of the online class. This really can be a very good exercise which which will involve not only recording and some kind of vocal activities, but also some body movement, because they will just move their bodies away from the screens. The last activity, which I've included into this webinar, is and you can try a common online comic strip or other concept cartoon to discuss and review the studied materials or the discussed topic. This we will see in the next part of the webinar, because this is one of the activities which we will present into some more details. So that was the end of a little bit theoretical part of the webinar. The next part is focused on more practical exercises, which we are going to present, and that's why I name it Now Let's Go Practical. The first, because during this until the end of the webinar, I'll be presenting the 3 exercises which we developed during the T4T project, which were particularly focused on how to use a creative and artistic approach into the online sessions. First, we will start, even though it's almost in the middle of the webinar, we will start with the warm-up activity. Its name is, during this activity, we are focusing on how to see the mood actually of our online session, and its objectives are to help learners get to know each other better, to create a group mood among remote or hybrid participants, and to lay the foundations for the effective group work, because it's in fact this is a warm-up activity. Another objective is to focus learners' attentions and thoughts on the topic of the lessons or the session we are teaching, and also with this activity, the objective is to encourage learners to experiment and to be creative during the lesson or the session. The task is to visualize the mood of the virtual classroom by creating a colorful mosaic. And I will suggest you to try this activity during the webinar. And so the rules are each of you could, I will share a whiteboard, and each of you could put one or two elements on this shared whiteboard. This could be a note, a dot, a arrow, or a line, or a bubble, or a sticker. And you are free to choose the color, the shape, the size of your element, and also where you like to put it. So let's stop sharing for a moment and open this whiteboard. So let's see what the mood of colorful mood of our online classroom is. For the moment, I see only one thing. Oh, black screen. Don't you see the whiteboard?
Mariana, we
Yeah.
see, and actually people are adding shapes and colors. So maybe something is going on your screen only.
Aha. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let me. Obviously, yes, obviously, this is something which, okay, this is obviously, this is something which I need to most probably to explore, share the whiteboard. Okay. So do you see it now? Or
We
not?
Or actually people are adding lots of interesting shapes.
Yes, I see. Do you see it now?
The whiteboard is on the screen.
Okay. Wow. A very, very colorful whiteboard. Lots of pictures, lots of drawings. Okay, let's have several one or two more minutes before looking at our whiteboard. Okay. So very, very colorful whiteboard. As you can see, people are really very creative and they can really do a lot of things. Yeah. So as an educator, you can restrict, of course, the participants in timing, and you can restrict them and ask them to put only one line at a time and organize different rounds. For this activity. And for example, during the first round, you can tell them that they can post only one line. And after that, organize the second round, and so they can do another line, but could post some challenges. And at the end, when you decide to finish this exercise, you can have a kind of a debriefing stage when you can ask the participants to look at the whiteboard and to tell what actually they see and what's the mood of the whiteboard. Yeah, I see that the mood of this whiteboard is really very, very colorful, very artistic, very, yes, fun. There is fun as well. It's great. So you can elaborate a little bit on the colors which were used during this exercise, the meaning of the colors, if there is more orange, more blue, more red, about the shapes, if they are more striped and more like a triangle or more strict or more artistic. And also for the educator, it's interesting and also helpful during this exercise to really see what actually the mood of the group would be in this case, if they would be more artistic participants, more creative participants, or the participants are more somehow prefer, let's say, it on the standard approach. Yes, we could continue with this exercise for quite a long time, but I would propose to stop for the moment. Yes, interesting clubhouse. What does it mean? It's when there are lots of languages. So I'm closing now this whiteboard. And we'll continue with the presentation. So we saw our whiteboard and how colorful it was and how thank you. And thank you very much for your participation in this exercise. It's always nice to see the active participants. And here I have prepared some examples of another whiteboards. For example, when on this whiteboard, when we see it, we could see that somehow the participants, they were more straight and here not so creative. Of course, there are some creative elements, but most of the participants would be more somehow they would prefer the most convenient approach, not so artistic approach. While, for example, on this whiteboard, when we have such a whiteboard as a warm-up activity, we could expect really very creative participants, and really, because we see that the lines are very loose with lots of colors, and the prevalence of the colors are yellow or a pink or a purple, which are usually the colors for the creativity. In this case, we could expect really more open-minded participants, and this activity could really help us to adjust our approach during the session after that. Or we could also ask participants, for example, to guess or to explain what kind of drawings they have done and what's the meaning. And this will help us to really learn more about the participants using the artistic approach, because as we said, as I already said, the purpose here is not to have a beautiful picture for exhibition, but just to have fun, just to really go to our comfort zone and somehow enjoy the session. The other activity which we like to present is an exercise activity. And it's again, because it's part of the artistic activities, it's again about the colors. And but this time to make a the colors palette of our meeting room. So here the objectives are to increase the group energy and to combat the screen fatigue, which is common when we are dealing with the online sessions. Also to encourage learners to be physically active in front of their monitors and to have fun, to help participants to take a break between serious subjects and lesson sessions topics, and also to encourage them to experiment and be creative during the lesson or the session. We are not going to try this activity because it requires really all the participants to switch their cameras on, which I don't think will be suitable for the moment. But I will briefly tell you what's activity, what this is, how to do the activity. So the rules here are that each participant should think about an object around them. This might be something at the home, in their room, or in their desk, and to present that object, but using only gestures. No words are allowed in this exercise, and the idea is the other participants to guess the object. They might shout or they might type into the chat, and after that we could, if we have time, we could select the participant, the winner of the exercise. The trick is that the person who presents the object might not talk, and he could or she could guide the other participants only by telling hot or cold. This is quite a common game, which most of us have played as children. But this is a way how to transform it into an online setting. And once the object is revealed, the participants continue with guessing the color of the object. Again, of course, this is a kind of a speculation, but once the color is revealed, the educator or the facilitator of the meeting posts a colorful post-it note or another sticker in the respective color on the online whiteboard. So everybody could see the colors, and after that, at the end, during the debrief stage, like in the warm-up activity, the educator might summarize the color of what the color palette of the group is, or might ask some of the participants to really say what the color palette of the room is. The third activity which we like to present is the wrap-up exercise, and it's based on the comic strips. Here the goal of the exercise is, because this is a wrap-up exercise, is to help learners reflect on the main aspects of the taught topic or subject, and also to help educator check and assess the level of understanding of the taught topic or subject, and last but not least, to obtain learners' feedback and thoughts about the topic of the lesson or session. This is quite a long activity, and it's based on doing cartoons. So the task here is to create a cartoon-line comic strip during which, in the form of a creative storytelling, to tell the story about the journey, the name of our heroes, throughout the land of and the name of the subject or topic which is taught. Here we also need, the educator need to bring to divide the participants into to have some group work in the common group, but also in some small group in virtual rooms and breakout groups. After this collaboration during in the beginning, all the participants should start into the common group, think about the names of the main characters in the comic strips. After that, they are divided into small groups and pairs where they should work on the one aspect of the topic, and there they have to create the images actually of this comic strip on the assigned topics, and for this they could use either ready-made comic strip templates from comic strip tools, or to draw their online cartoon-like images. Of course, depending on their own skills, learners might approach the task in different ways, depending on what they prefer. And when they decide to make ready-made cartoons, they can work on collaborative comic strip tools. There are different free and really very user-friendly tools. You can find some examples into the respective chapter from the guidelines. We have provided different tools on how to use it, and also in the description of this exercise you can find some very useful online tools on how to do that. If the participants decide to if the participants decide to do their own cartoon-like drawings, of course, they have to, after drawing them, they have to make a picture and save them as images, because after that, after the work in the virtual breakout rooms, all the participants should go back to the main room and do the comic strip together on a shared whiteboard. They have to really collect all the images, all the drawings they've done, and to try to arrange them as a story. And at the end, during the debrief stage, they should they should really narrate the story of the heroes throughout the land. That was we are proposing this exercise because it's from one side, it's a very creative way to really sum up and reflect during through images, but also through texts, because during the cartoon, making the cartoon images, people need not only to think about drawings, but also about to texts which which we put into the bubbles, and it's an easy way really to capture the essence of the lesson or the topic, to really put those really core terms, core knowledge, and the outcomes into the bubbles. And this is really something very useful for educators to see the level of the understanding of the material, especially if it's a difficult one. So where you could find all those exercises. To see the full exercises, go to the project website, and there into the results section, you can scroll down a little bit and find the practical exercises section, and there you can see different types of activities. The warm-up activities are in red. The energizer activities are in green, and the wrap-up activities are in blue. So for each of the activity, you can find the description of its duration, its learning objectives, its learning outcomes, what materials will be needed to do it in online environment, but also in offline environment, because now after the COVID, we are shifting back to offline. So this is that's why we decided to also do this, propose how to do this activity offline. The development of the activities, which includes a step-by-step explanation on how to do and to run the activity. Some tips and traps on how to what is important to consider during doing this activity. For example, for the energizer and for the warm-up activity, which we proposed, it's important for educators to think about and to observe about any frustrations from the participants if someone puts into the whiteboard, into the shared whiteboard, an element over someone else's elements. This sometimes might be a bit frustrating for one of the participants. So such kind of tips and traps on how to handle the activity you can find in that section. In the other section, you can find some variations of the activities. For example, if you decide to make like the activity more complicated, what kind of things you can bring in addition, what kind of restrictions or what kind of variations you can bring to the activity. Some tips for running the activity in face-to-face or in blended environment. This is again for the period after the COVID period, when we are running some activities and lots of activities now again back again face-to-face or in a blended format. So here you can find some tips. Glossary of the main terms, which could be helpful for the educator to see how to do actually, how to approach the terms and to understand better. And some helpful tips for further reading and some sources in English. And there you can find links for different tools which you can use during this activity. I hope that all those things were helpful and you will find the webinar useful, because that was the end of the things which I have prepared to share with you today. And thank you very much for the participation and for the interest.